Please stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. Tom will join us in a moment here to give our invocation, but before he does, I'd like to take a moment of silence in memory of Mary Dowell, who passed away recently. Murray was a member of our club from 2002 through 2015. She was viewed as a thought leader and inspiration to women throughout the area. Mary Dowell served and chaired on many boards and numerous local organizations. She always remained an active member of Milwaukee's business and philanthropic communities, focusing on the advancement of women leaders. So please take a moment of silence in memory of Mary Dowell. Thank you. Now, Tom Gale, Senior Advisor at SB and Hintz Commercial Real Estate, will come to the podium and give our invocation.
Thank you, President Todd. God, both mercy and judgment belong to you. When we lift our eyes to see the ways women and girls are treated, it's not hard to be hardened by judgment and anger. Teach boys and men to partner in true unity to bring equity to all. Give us supernatural intellect and foresight. Show men and women the laws they may write together to enshrine women's freedom in practice. Extend supernatural grace into the hearts of women and girls who have been abused, kept from their gifts, cut off from safety, and betrayed by the ones they trust. Give us the opportunity to build up what has been broken and show by love the deeds that you believe to be true, that women and girls have the dignity and the worth of the Creator, and we all should act as if we believe it. But remember, in the entire history of sports, no athlete has ever looked into a sideline camera and said, "Hi, Dad." They always say, "Hi, Mom." Amen to that.
Thank you, Tom. I'd also like to, everybody can be seated. Please sit down. I'd like to just make another thanks to our sponsors, our Rotary sponsors, whose logos appeared on the presentation before the program began. If you or your organization are interested in supporting Rotary, please contact the Rotary office. We do have a number of guests today to announce, so when I call your name, if you can, please stand so you can be recognized. We have Taruna Gupta from Growth Design Group, Maggie Kuhn from Kane Communications, Jenna McGuire from Founders 3 Real Estate Services, Janet Rosenthal from North Shore Bank, Jody Tabak from the City of Milwaukee, Alex Zamora from JP Morgan Bank, Ayrton Bryan from Rockwell Automation, and we've got Steve Marsh from the Wisconsin Center District. Thank you for joining our club. We're excited to hear from Karen and Kimberly about women in the workplace here shortly, but we do have some club business to take care of first. One of the best parts about club business, keeping our club strong and really keeping our club's ability to make a real difference in our community, is bring in new members, and we have two to introduce this morning, or this afternoon. So please welcome Mary McCormick to welcome our newest member.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming out in the cold today. It's sunny out there anyway, so we're always glad to have that. And today I have the pleasure of introducing Sue Frauchi, but I know that she really does not need any introduction to many of you because she already has many friends here. I've had the great pleasure of knowing Sue for decades, going back to the days when she lived on the east side of Milwaukee and our children attended St. Robert's School. She's also not known Todd for about that long because she shared a carpool with the Bentley family in the early 80s as well. That's one of the things that I really love about Milwaukee. So often there are just a few degrees of separation. Sue is the kind of person that I always want on my team or leading my team. She's incredibly energetic, smart, and passionate about the causes in which she chooses to invest her time, talent, and resources. She's currently chairing the $8 million capital campaign for the Friends of Lakeshore State Park, which is just, down the road from us. And she's an engaged member of the Renaissance Theater Works Board of Directors. She was a docent for the Milwaukee Art Museum for more than 15 years and served as the president of the Contemporary Art Society. I know that she has stayed involved in UPAF because she checks in with me each year to see if my donation is on the way. Sue is a Milwaukee native, and she and her husband, Tim, have lived in the 3rd Ward for 14 years. They're one of the first, really, to move down there on the river. They have 5 sons and 7 grandchildren. 2 of their sons live here in Milwaukee, and others live in New York, Seattle, and San Francisco, so they have great places to visit. Sue graduated from the University of Utah and went on to earn a master's in liberal studies from UWM. She's an avid athlete who enjoys tennis, golf, sailing, and winter sports. She also likes to bike and walk, especially around her beloved Lakeshore State Park. Please join me in giving Sue a very warm Rotary welcome.
Hi, everybody. I want to thank you very much for admitting me into your illustrious organization. I have to say that I did read the history and didn't know a lot about the history of Rotary, and it's amazing how important Rotary has been to not only Milwaukee, but the whole world. And so I am very privileged to be a part of this organization, and I look forward to making the connections with many of you that I do not already have. And so I thank you, and I'm looking forward to also learning a lot, because I know the lectures are really wonderful. Thank you very much.
Here's your Rotary pin. Rotary takes their pins very seriously.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome, Sue, and thank you, Mary, for bringing Susan in. Now, please welcome Dr. Matthew Hertine up to the stage to introduce our next new member.
Thank you, everyone. It's good to see everyone back in session, and I always enjoy coming on the Tuesdays to meet everyone. I was told to make this quick, so I just want to introduce Peter. Just kidding. So reflecting on Rotary and reflecting on Paul Harris, he once said, "Rotary changes us and those we serve. I believe we can change the world one life at a time," and that's really been a mission of mine, and one that I've been proud to serve with Rotary. It's a privilege for me to introduce Mr. Peter Hannes as a new member to our club. I've had the chance to know Peter from birth. You may ask why. I'm also his uncle. He's actually outgrown me too, so we're standing over there, and he's much taller than I am now. Watching Peter grow up into the person he's become has been an amazing journey. He's a very smart and talented individual and shows a lot of servant leadership qualities on a day-to-day basis. Peter will be one that will make a difference and an individual that will make Milwaukee Rotary very proud. Peter is currently a sales manager at Craig Ushered Designs in Brookfield and serves as an adjunct professor at Concordia University. His MBA comes from UW-Milwaukee, and he currently lives in Wauwatosa. He's recently engaged and is actively planning his wedding. Congratulations. Peter comes from a long line in history of family heritage, serving in civic organizations. He is a former member of the Racine Founders Rotary Club, so we're excited about that as well. Now that he's decided to work and live in Milwaukee, he's looking forward to giving back to the Milwaukee community and having that opportunity to serve with us. Peter, I'm glad you have chosen our club to be part of, and we look forward to your time and talents with our club. Thanks.
Thanks for having me here today. Thanks for inviting me. I went on a road trip this summer, and we hit pretty much every major city in the Midwest that you can think of. And it reaffirmed my love for the city of Milwaukee. And I'm just really excited to be part of this group and, kind of get in the middle of what makes this city tick and give my time and energy back to the city of Milwaukee. So thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Matt. And Peter, welcome to our club. We're excited to have you. On your tables, you'll find our most recent People of Action profile, this week featuring Patrick Matsuni of Robert W. Barrett and Company and Brett Timmerman of Keller Williams, Milwaukee, North Shore. A terrific couple we should all take the time to get to know. Patrick and Brett have a vision for Milwaukee to be a place to lay roots and thrive, a place that's well housed with good jobs and young talent that's well educated. Jeff Smoller, the People of Action writer, said in closing, hopefully Milwaukee is a place where parents from Nairobi and Keeler can see how far their sons have come, from worlds apart to living a life of intentionality together. So check that out. I think the People of Action profile will also be available online. Now, RCM Scholarship Golf Classic. It was 2 degrees below zero when I left my house this morning, but golf season is never that far away. And the Scholarship Golf Classic is now officially planned. The Wisconsin Club, the country club, will host it again this year on Monday, June 6th. So thanks to all of our sponsors and golfers who have participated over the years. The event to date has raised more than $620,000 for scholarships that support Milwaukee students. Many of the students are the first in their families to go to college. Email went out with registration information on Monday morning, so you can sign up through the events page on the website. Additionally, there's a link there to become a sponsor of the event. Sponsorships and golf packages are a fun way to entertain yourself, entertain coworkers and clients. So please take a moment, read through that and check it out. We have 3 new sponsors already this year: Kevin Beal with Madison Medical Affiliates, Rob Blair with JP Morgan Private Bank, and Kyle Farrick with Farrick Funeral Homes have all stepped up this year. So thank you guys, and please thank them and look into supporting the Golf Classic. Now, Jeff Fleming, founder and president of Kingston Crossing LLC, has a special announcement about our Rotary Person of the Year.
Yep, it's that time of the year. Brief but important announcement. The Rotary Club of Milwaukee has no higher honor than the Rotary Person of the Year Award. Annually, our club honors an accomplished local individual who has distinguished herself or himself with professional accomplishments. One of our former honorees, Sister Edna, is here today, and there may be others I didn't spot. Members of our club are eligible for the award, but most often the winner comes from outside of the club. Unlike other awards that honor civic or philanthropic achievements, the Rotary Person of the Year honors leaders who build, employ, and have economic impact in our region. This award recognizes individuals, executives, and entrepreneurs who, through their profession, are making the Milwaukee community a better place to live and work. The most important step in the process of selecting the Rotary Person of the Year is in your hands. It's the nomination process. Last year, the honoree, Dr. John Raymond, was nominated by 3 of our members: Kendra Whitlock Ingram, Jackie Hurd Barber, and Joanne Anton. Now we ask you, who should be our 2022 Rotary Person of the Year? The Rotary Person of the Year Committee requests that nominators submit a brief nomination form. It can be just 1 page long, and you can submit that to the Rotary office. The deadline is coming up. I don't know that we have an exact date, but the sooner you can get it in, the better. Invite your nominations. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. And now one last announcement. Amy Jensen, CFO and COO of the Water Council, will address our next Done in a Day opportunity.
Thank you very much. The pandemic has only increased the need to supply food for those who face hunger. Please join Done in a Day committee and volunteers on Saturday, February 12th to help with the enormous task Feeding America Eastern Wisconsin faces in trying to meet the needs of the community. Volunteers are needed to sort and package food at their Lindsay Heights location from 9 until noon. Children 10 or older are welcome, but must be accompanied by a parent or guardian. Masks are required, and Feeding America follows strict safety protocols. This is a great excuse to get out of the house, spend some time with fellow Rotarians, and support an important cause. A sign-up can be found in your email this morning, as well as a sign-up board by the registration table. Thank you, and hope to see you there.
Thank you, Amy. And now turning to today's speakers. Today's program will first feature a presentation by Kimberly Kane of Kane Communications, followed by a question and answer moderated discussion with Karen Hung, CEO and founder of Silver Rock Consulting. For those of you who don't know Kimberly Kane, she is the president and CEO of Kane Communications Group. She's an award-winning journalist and public relations practitioner. Her firm works with executives to align communications with business strategy, defining brands, building reputations, and inspiring business results. Kimberly is a mom of 4. She grew up in Los Angeles, where her father operated a gang prevention and juvenile diversion program. She and her twin sister spent years working with their dad in the city's most dangerous housing projects. These experiences inspired Kimberly to pursue a career in journalism, where she saw an opportunity to do more than just report on difficult news, but to share stories of hope and to empower viewers with well-researched, objective information. For those of you who don't know Karen Hung, Karen is president-elect of our Rotary Club, as well as the CEO and founder of Silver Rock Consulting. Her consulting group focuses on growth and transformation strategies and business models for her clients and her customers.
You may not know that that Karen was named a woman of influence by the Business Journal, a woman of distinction by Milwaukee Magazine, and a notable woman on boards by Biz Times. In addition to Silver Rock and Rotary, she is busy serving on 9 boards, including Ascension, Wisconsin, KeHE, a $9 billion national food distributor, and Florence Eisman, an upscale children's apparel company. So please welcome first to the stage, Kimberly Kane.
Thanks for the introduction, Todd. And Karen, I look forward to the conversation. We have had many, so I look forward to this next one. Okay, with my clicker ready, let's go ahead and get started. It's wonderful to have the opportunity to talk with each of you today about our research. Fortune magazine just released the results of a recent survey they did with CEOs across the country. And the results of that survey indicated that the top concern that CEOs in America have today is the Great Resignation. What I'm reading and what I'm learning through our research and through others is that the solution to today's talent crisis is going to require a different playbook for companies. Writing that new one will require leaders and CEOs to challenge stereotypes, to test new ideas, to be open to feedback, and to be willing to change. Our research about the state of working women in Wisconsin may give employers here in this state a competitive advantage if they act on it. And I don't take that lightly, but in doing the research, we learned that no other state in the nation has done the kind of detailed research that we have into the impact of the pandemic on working women and how they feel about working for their employers today. So employers who take the research that we have, really evaluate the recommendations that we have put into this research, have a competitive advantage when it comes to addressing this issue. We learned that 50% of working women in the state of Wisconsin are considering quitting their jobs, and that is higher than the national average. So my hope is that the research I share with you today does more than open the eyes of company leaders to the importance of retaining women, but that it helps us affect sustainable change in the workplace, helps us understand not just what the barriers have been for women in the workplace today, but helps us understand what the barriers have been to the success of women in the workplace for quite a long time, for decades, in fact. So up here you can see on the slide, and perhaps those of you on Zoom can see as well, I've added at canecomgroup.com if you want to tweet about or post about what we're talking about, or the hashtag Cain Insights as well. Because I'll tell you, based on my experience, raising awareness about issues is the first step toward change. Let me tell you just a tiny bit about Cain. Thank you for going into the background. I grew up with my dad. He ran a gang prevention program. I went into journalism because I thought it was so important to talk about solutions. When I left the world of journalism, what you may not know is that I actually went into executive search. I spent about 5 or 6 years working in executive search, helping companies from private equity and venture capital all the way up to Fortune 500 build their teams. But here's the problem with having a former journalist work with you on search strategy. My goal was always to dig into the problem. Why is it that we have such high turnover? Why is it that candidates don't know about you? Why don't they want to join your company? And finding answers to those questions led into much deeper questions around employer value proposition, your brand, how you're communicating with your employees and how you're engaging them, how you're helping them thrive in the workplace. One of my search clients actually said to me, Kimberly, I don't have answers to these questions, so why don't you just leave your job in search and join my company to help me solve them? So that led me out of search, that led me into communications, and that eventually led to me starting Kane Communications Group. Kane is a purpose-driven branding, marketing, and public relations agency that builds, activates, and protects reputations for organizations around the world. And I think it's important to know that we don't just create logos or do campaigns or create taglines. We solve real-world business problems through strategic communications. Our mission is to elevate purpose and earn trust for good. Earning trust for good means 2 things to us. We want our clients to earn trust for the good things that they're doing, but we know that there's a bit of a finality to this too, right? We want them to earn trust and good reputations for the long term. We know that, beyond campaigns, beyond design, beyond storytelling, we want our clients' brands to mean something for the long term. That's what drives lasting results. And we believe that communities thrive when businesses are earning trust and they're doing things for the good of their community. We carry that belief through our process, and you'll hear a little bit about that as I talk about the research. So today I'm going to share just a little bit of background with you to set the stage for the research, and then I'll get into the methodology, the findings, and the recommendations we've put together. Karen Hung will then join us on stage, and she'll ask me some of the tough questions, and then I look forward to the questions from the audience as well. So here we go. I think we can all agree that women play a vital role in business and in our economy. And in 2009, the Harvard Business Review actually put a report together called The Female-Led Economy. And at that time, they said, 2009, women now drive the economy. And this was the start of some really exciting information that I was tracking about the impact of women in business and in the work world. In 2018, the World Economic Forum did a study, and they found that when more women enter the workforce, everyone benefits. Women bring a new way of thinking. We bring new skills. We elevate productivity. We create efficiencies. And as a result, businesses grow. Businesses are more profitable. And guess what, guys? Your salaries actually go up because of us. So an important factor there. By 2019, I was preparing for a presentation I was doing with Biz Times. I was preparing to moderate their Women in Business panel, and I came across this statistic. And to me, this said, gosh, we are gaining such great momentum. This was a report from Morgan Stanley that said that women were earning bachelor's degrees at that time at faster rates than men. And take a look at the percentage of women who were the primary breadwinners in their families. It's pretty significant, and it was exciting to me to see the kind of progress that we were making. But then 2020 hit, and our world's changed. More than 2.5 million women actually dropped out of the labor force during the pandemic. Headlines like these showed the disproportionate impact that COVID-19 had on working women. And then last summer, waves of resignations began to sweep the country in what's now being described as the Great Resignation. So at that time, many of our clients, this was last summer, were really trying to get the engines of their businesses going again. They were really trying to bring employees back into the workforce, into their offices. And they turned to us and they said, gosh, what if we say the wrong thing? What if we make the wrong decision? What if all of our employees start to resign as well? So we took a step back and we said, we want to do more than just help you with messaging. We want to help you with strategies. But before we do that, we really need to understand kind of the scope of the problem, especially here in the state of Wisconsin. Now, at this time, we were seeing not just news about the Great Resignation, but we were seeing that women were leading the Great Resignation. They were quitting at faster rates than men, and they were returning to the workforce at slower rates than men. So we wanted to see how women in Wisconsin were faring. We did our research here in Wisconsin, and we found that nobody had really looked into this or quantified it. So we decided, well, we'll go ahead and do it, right? Just because no one else has done it doesn't mean we shouldn't. And just a tiny sidestep, everything we do is in line with our brand and with our purpose. So people have said to me, Kimberly, why in the world would a small PR agency like yours go ahead and do this kind of detailed study in the state of Wisconsin? Is this a passion project? Is this something that your clients have asked you to do? And the answer is, well, kind of, but it's really in line with who we are as a company. It's in line with the work that we do to help our clients build purpose-driven brands and to promote and protect their reputations. But it's also in line with Kane's corporate citizen commitments. Empowering women in the economy and closing gender gaps in the world of work are key to achieving the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And as a woman-owned and woman-led company, Kane looks for ways constantly to advance these efforts. So I'm proud to say that we are a member of the United Nations Global Compact USA network, and we are on our way to becoming a certified B Corp. So doing this research is really in line with what we stand for as a company and our process, the way we approach all of our work, starting with research. Those of you in the audience who are clients, know we talk about research all the time. So if the pandemic taught us anything, It is that recruitment and retention are directly tied to a company's reputation. And reputations are not merely stated, they are earned. The Great Quit is fueled by poor corporate policies, out-of-touch management, and inadequate communication. Our research validated that, but we're also seeing that in the national research. And if you are constantly not able to retain your employees, that is a reflection of your reputation. Some are now calling this time not just the Great Resignation, but the Great Reckoning, as companies are grappling with these problems and coming to terms with issues inside their companies and the consequences. So the Great Resignation to me was a sign that there was a disconnect between employees and their employers, especially working women. So if we're going to help our clients, we need to really dig into what that disconnect is. Our goal with the Cain Insight study then was to identify the issues and the trends and help our clients make informed and responsible decisions to retain employees, especially women. In this post-pandemic era, we wanted to know, what does a modern day work environment look like that enables Wisconsin's working women to be at our best? Helping our clients take these kinds of intentional steps benefits their businesses in today's changing world in which society expects companies to act in the best interest of their stakeholders. You think about the way your kids or your grandkids are making decisions, social impact is very important to them. And if as businesses we're not looking at our operations and the decisions we're making through the lens of social impact, our kids might get mad at us, but our customers may increasingly choose to visit a competitor of ours, and employees may choose not to work with us. The good news is research increasingly is showing that when companies do good in the world, they also do well. So as we did the research, we did the analysis, we got that data back, I had an aha moment when I started seeing these headlines beginning to come out. Headlines about the number of women who are considering quitting, and additional headlines. So before we released this information to our clients, I pressed pause. I called Karen Hung. I called Dr. Eve Hall, who is in this room, I think, and a few other women, and I said, can I read these statistics to you and tell you kind of what this data is saying to us? And then I need your advice, because I think we need to release this research statewide and use it not just for our clients. And they agreed. And thank you very much to all of you for being so candid with me. It was an aha moment. And that's when we decided to turn the corner and release this information to the state. So let me go ahead and show you how the report is broken down. I have a couple of copies here. If you want hard copies, I can also get you hard copies. You can also download this report at caneinsights.com. So we grouped the major insights that emerged from the data into the 6 categories you see outlined here. We have Gen Z, women of color, working mothers, stress and mental health, purpose, and then we did a special subsection on industries, because there are some industries in this state that we call sector setbacks, where we saw significant kind of pops in the research where there are issues that leaders in these industries really need to pay attention to when it comes to women: pay equity, stress, flexibility, and that sort. So we discuss not just the research in this report, but we also discuss insights that employers can put to work to address the insights. So here's an overview of the methodology, and I think this is really important for you to take a look at. We did a random sample of 980 working women from across the state of Wisconsin. That survey sample represents the demographic makeup of the state very closely. We conducted the survey itself over the summer in the middle of July. The margin of error was about 3.1% with a 95% confidence rate, which makes me feel really good about the statistical significance of the data. We drafted the questions and the research strategy, and we worked with a researcher to conduct the on-the-ground telephone polls and the surveys. We wanted to assess current feelings of well-being, support, stress levels, employer communication, and satisfaction with people's jobs. And then again, we wanted to do a look at industries, which industries are doing well in terms of retaining and engaging working women, and which industries have some real lessons to learn here in the state of Wisconsin. From the perspective of positive findings, and I won't read every one of these statistics, I think you'll get a good picture here. Women in the state of Wisconsin want to work for companies that are doing good in the world. So we asked the women in our survey some questions about purpose because we wanted to test our theories. How important is purpose to working women in the state of Wisconsin? And you see 86% of working women in the state believe they work for purpose-driven organizations, and you'll see a high percentage who also say working for a purpose-driven organization is very important to them. One thing I found interesting when you kind of look at polarization, you look at opinions and attitudes in the context of what we read about and hear in the news, is women who self-identified as Republican or Democratic had a lot in common. We saw very few differences in terms of how women feel about work, whether they're Republican or Democratic, and about the importance of communication from their employer. Concerning findings, the top one is that 50% of working women in the state of Wisconsin are considering quitting their jobs right now. So if you think about your own workplace, you think about half of the women in your workplace may not want to be there. They may want to quit. That was alarming to me. The number one reason women are considering quitting across every demographic is they feel undervalued at work. And that's a very important concept to think about, feeling valued or undervalued. Nobody wants to be treated like a position description or somebody who is a cog in the wheel to achieve a metric. Unfortunately, many women do feel that way at work. Almost half of them report difficulties balancing work at home responsibilities during the height of the pandemic. We saw stories about this. More than 20% report being somewhat or very unsatisfied with their current work engagement. This speaks to how we're handling hybrid or remote or in-person work. And then sector setbacks, manufacturing, transportation, energy, and agriculture. We saw a number of sector setbacks. So 42% of women who work in this industry or these industries disagree that their employer cares about their mental health, as compared to 23% across all other industries. So key areas that we spelled out in these spreads were based on trends that came up in the research. Stress and mental health is a big one. We found that many working women in the state of Wisconsin feel that their employer's policies don't support mental health, and many of them disagree that their employer even cares about their mental health. I'm not sure if that's really true. I think many employers do care about mental health, but for some reason, our employees, especially our working women, aren't feeling that. It's an indication that we need to take a look at those policies and think about whether we're walking our talk. Higher stress levels. So we found that women in the state of Wisconsin have stress levels that are 36% higher than the national average. And if you're looking at it through the lens of a business owner or a business leader, stress impacts productivity. 61% of working women told us that. The women of color findings were particularly concerning to me. As a region, the MMAC has launched its Region of Choice initiative. But if you were to use this as kind of a litmus against, to check how we're doing, it says to me that we've got work to do. So becoming a region of choice when it comes to individuals of color needs to be about more than increasing the number of African American or individuals of color in our companies or in our leadership positions. We need to make sure that we're including them. We need to make sure that our cultures are representative of everyone. And these statistics indicated to me that we have a lot of work to do. And Dr. Hall and I talked about these quite a bit, and I really appreciate your feedback. 42% of African American women feel undervalued at work. You see disconnects in terms of values alignment. One statistic that is on here, there it is, it's up at the top. 29% of Hispanic or Latino women actually left their jobs because they feel undervalued. So I think for all of us who are business leaders or business owners in this room, I think we need to press pause and think about this and reflect within our own companies about what we are doing or what we can do to ensure that When we hire individuals of color, how are we making sure that they feel included and that they can thrive? And our report has a lot of recommendations to that end. In terms of working mothers, work-life balance, I don't know, I think it's impossible for working moms to begin with. I stopped trying to seek balance. But what I did try to seek when I was employed by other companies was at least an understanding of some of the challenges I was facing as a working mom. And many women in the state of Wisconsin have jobs that don't offer flexible schedules or that kind of understanding. Childcare is a big one. 80% of working mothers have jobs that offer no childcare support. And what that means is they have jobs that make it hard for them to actually afford high quality childcare, or there's no high quality childcare close by. And if you can imagine the stress for working moms, they have a job, they want to show up, but they can't afford full-time childcare, or that childcare is failing them. I think it's important for us to be empathetic about that and identify ways to address it. Paid family leave is also an issue, and working moms have higher stress levels than women who don't have children here in Wisconsin. I love Gen Z. I don't know how many of you have kids who are Gen Z or grandkids who are Gen Z, but this generation came on so strong with so many opinions in our survey. We've read about kind of watch out for Gen Z. They're digital natives. They're very informed, and as we're looking to hire and retain Gen Z women, make sure that you're aware of how important equality is to them, how important it is to feel connected at work, how important communication is to them, and their lack of commitment to you if you're not aligning on all of those very important levels to them. So these statistics, I think, are very important for us to be aware of if we have Gen Z employees and if we want to attract Gen Z employees. As I mentioned, the report is chock full of recommendations for employers. So we didn't want to just give employers the statistics. We brought a group of working women together, actually groups of them. We had an in-person session with a number of women, almost 24 women joined us in October. And then we held a number of sessions, either work groups online or met one-on-one with working women of all demographics, all age groups, all experience levels, to say, take a look at these findings, and if you were to design a set of recommendations for employers to address retention issues at work, what would you recommend? So for working mothers, one of the top recommendations is modernize parental leave policies to make them gender neutral. Recognize that dads have an equal role in parenting to moms. Also recognize that 17% of working women in the state of Wisconsin identify as LGBTQ. So gender neutral policies are very important. For overall women's stress and mental health, make positive recognition important. For women of color, combat implicit bias and race in all of your recruitment and promotion. Don't just say you're doing something, but demonstrate how you're doing the right thing. And for Gen Z, ensure that your brand is purpose-driven. Larry Fink stated in a letter he wrote to CEOs in 2019 that purpose is not a mere tagline or a marketing campaign. Purpose is a company's fundamental reason for being, what it does every day to create value for its stakeholders. There's another interesting article recently from Fast Company magazine that really dug into purpose and talked about how purpose is now table stakes for any company that wishes to be relevant, competitive, and at the highest levels beloved. As a company, I think we can be beloved. I think we want to be beloved by our employees and our consumers. Those organizations without a clear purpose are already behind and can expect to face a great reckoning of their own in the years ahead. I had a conversation with a chief marketing officer early today about this, and he said to me, Kimberly, you've got to help me demonstrate the business value to purpose and what's coming if we don't begin to adopt a purpose-driven brand and take a look at the impact of environmental, social, and governance reporting metrics on our company. So that's something we're beginning to work on. This is a new trend in business. This is a really important strategy for all of you to take a look at, because purpose drives how we're engaging our employees and how we're engaging our customers. So I'm thrilled that since we launched the study, we've gotten great publicity. We showed up in more than 60 different news publications around the state. And I continue to get a lot of phone calls from business leaders who ask more detailed questions about the statistics and how to integrate what we've learned into their business operations today. So I'm going to press pause because I think we'll get a chance to talk a little bit about those conversations with Karen. Thank you.
Kimberly, can you hear me? Kimberly, that was great. And you know, I've heard this a few different times, and every time I get something out of it. Everybody, this is a little bit of how we're going to run these next few minutes. I have a few questions for Kimberly. We're going to open it up for the audience. For those online, please feel free to join us and text your questions to 414-840-9623. 840-9623. So we'd love to hear from you as well. Wow, Kimberly. What strikes me as you've talked about this is this report and this effort has given us all really it's given us some room for dialogue and thinking and a platform for voice and discussion. And just to repeat a couple things that struck me again was 50% of the women who are working whom you surveyed are thinking about quitting. And of course, you had all the different segments. I am very curious, as you've gone around and have been invited by various business leaders to speak about this, what are you hearing?
I hear a lot of pause because most companies have not done this kind of introspection. And as we look at the headlines and the concerns about the resignation around the country, you know, companies are not, you know, here in Wisconsin are not as clear on their own risk for this trend hitting their companies as well. So a lot of questions about, you know, how at risk are we? How do I know if women in my company are considering quitting at this rate? There is some ownership, which I think is wonderful to see among CEOs and business leaders who are asking, you know, what do I do about this? I got a phone call from a CEO after I was on the radio at one point who said to me, we've done a lot related to mental health and mental wellness within the company. We realize that stress and mental health are very important. But he said, I've never thought about my employees feeling valued. That just never struck me. So those kinds of conversations are leading, I think, to some real introspection. And that's where I think we'll see some good change.
What I'm hearing you say is this is really an opportunity for people to really think about a self-assessment hitting closer to home and like, I really can and should need to do something about it. One piece that struck me as you were talking about it, and you just mentioned this in your response, is this notion of feeling valued. How do people start thinking about, how do you quantify feeling valued?
I think it starts with research. So one company has asked us to come in and take the survey that we did across the state and customize it for his organization. He wants to benchmark against the state to see how valued his employees feel compared to the state average, and then use the data from that survey to make some refinements internally, begin new programs or new initiatives to improve that feeling about, you know, being valued. Being valued really speaks to how much employees feel that they matter. You know, are they just kind of punching in to do a job, or are they actually helping you accomplish something as an organization? So a healthcare technology company that we've been talking to is they're competing for talent right now against Silicon Valley and companies all over the world, literally for top talent. And they know they can't compete just on what they do. So they want to begin to look at competing on why they do what they do and the health outcomes that their technology creates for people who use this technology. So I think when we realize as business leaders that most employees today are not motivated by just the job we give them, but they're motivated by a greater sense of purpose, and we can define that purpose and ensure our employees feel like they're actually helping us to achieve that, I think that's where you're creating connect between a company and its employees and helping employees feel like they matter in accomplishing that big goal.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's around how do you take something that maybe is amorphous as a sense of feeling, right, and also making it more tangible. Something else that you said too that really struck me, just that has been persistent, is this purpose-driven component and having people feel like we matter, right? That we matter in a bigger way. I actually want to pull forward, given the tone around we matter, to a question that showed up when you spoke at Milwaukee Women Inc. recently. And our own Morelka Velez had posed this question or posed this response in a different way. So let me ask it as a question. A lot of what you've talked about, Kimberly, has been around systemic changes, policy, more macro changes. What are your thoughts around individuals' responsibility to self-advocate and to self-empower from an advancement standpoint?
Well, I'll speak about that through the lens of maybe being a woman, right? And I had a great conversation a number of years ago when I was, I think it was board president or VP for Tempo Milwaukee, and a CEO who knew the role that I played at Tempo at that time said, I need to talk with you about women within my company because, they join our team, they talk about advancement, they talk about what they want, they talk about growth, and then all of a sudden I'm not hearing from them at all. I don't know what happens. And I don't even know how to find out what's going on. And I think looking at this through the lens of women, and through the lens of any employee, I think it's very important for us to give ourselves permission to speak about what's happening in our lives and to speak about what's changing. And if we don't give ourselves permission to do that, I see women kind of put their heads down and they go, oh, my boss won't listen to me, or oh, I might be fired if I speak up. Are you kidding me? Things will never change if you don't speak up. And I think that's what this CEO is pointing to. People get married, people have children, their spouses might lose a job, their family members might get sick, and then your job performance might suffer. Or you might begin to think that you can no longer do your job because your life has changed, so therefore you need to go find a different job, but you've never had that conversation with your employer. Stop it. Give yourselves permission to have that conversation. And one thing Morelka said that I thought was so important was she is asking her direct reports, put a proposal together for me. If something in your life has changed, great. Tell me about it. Let's put together a proposal. Tell me how you can continue to work for me because you're phenomenal. And the last thing I want to do is lose you. Put that proposal together. Let's see what we can make work.
Huge opportunity for self-advocacy, but also for companies to innovate how they do work.
And the importance of communication. So 89% of women in the study said communication from their employer is extremely important, from their supervisor. But 25% of women in the study said their supervisor is not communicating with them. They feel in the dark, that leads to disconnect, and that may increase the likelihood they're going to leave.
That's great. Let's take a pause and hear from the audience. So I'd love to get some of your questions. And then also for those online, don't forget to text.
Great study and a great presentation. Thoroughly enjoyed it. So I work in the education group. We do a lot of study and employee engagement. A lot of your themes tie back to a lot of stuff we found. Very specific. This recently had a female worker that moved out of state, rock star, right? And we never had this process of how it's moving forward. She came with a plan. We were able to follow through on that plan. She's still a rock star for us, helping us with advocacy. But the one thing I wanted to ask you was, have you looked at this employee engagement? So employee engagement is defined as how productive or how committed an employee is to the mission, vision, and KPIs of the organization. That looks at the level side. Do you see a connection between your study and
yeah. Our study didn't look specifically into employee engagement, but it did take a look at kind of stress and some of the issues that lead to the disconnect between employees at work. So maybe if you took that one step further. So the question was, did we take a look at employee engagement in our survey? And we did not take a look specifically at employee engagement, but some of the factors that impact how connected employees feel at work. So when they're stressed out at home, or when they don't have the flexibility they need, or if they feel that their pay is not equitable, those are the kinds of things that impact productivity, which could impact engagement.
Other questions? Yeah. Let me recap the question very quickly. The question is around self-advocacy. So what are some of the behaviors and characteristics around self-advocacy, and especially also for men to help identify and work with that?
Well, it starts at the top. And I think that employers need to create an environment where employees feel safe and comfortable advocating for themselves. So I think it starts at the top with the importance of transparency and leaders in companies really demonstrating the value of each one of their employees. And then, at your supervisor level, I think supervisors, if your supervisors are not meeting with their direct reports on a monthly basis, I think that's a problem. I think supervisors need to be meeting with their direct reports on a monthly basis and having these open conversations with their direct reports, not just about work, but about life, about how things are going in their lives, and giving them the permission to advocate on behalf of themselves if things are beginning to change. So when you can have that two-way street, again, the survey showed how important communication is. When supervisors are communicating consistently with their employees will have that greater sense that they can communicate openly and advocate for themselves with their supervisors. I missed that. Okay, so the clarification is how as men can we be more supportive? I think it's the same thing. I really think it's having open conversations with your direct reports, asking them not just about, are you meeting your business metrics, but how's everything going in your life? I think it's that open communication from men to women, from women to women is vital.
Increasingly either distrustful or feeling unrespected. Are there some special considerations that employers need to be taking? I'm thinking specifically on small businesses. These are a lot of the first time or maybe second role folks, and that generation is going to keep getting bigger and more. That's a large level of success.
Sure. So the question is about Gen Z, especially as a small business. How, as an employer, we can engage Gen Z, keep them in the workplace, even attract new members of Gen Z to the workplace. And the Gen Z responses were two things that are very important to them. One is that you're looking at what you do through a social impact lens. We're not just talking about how great our products are and what they do, but we're talking about what we stand for as a company. One of them that really came out loud and clear from the Gen Z women that we spoke with in our work groups is career tracking. So they're not loyal to the companies that they're with. Oftentimes they're just filling a position. But if you're talking with your Gen Z employees about where they can be a year from now in the company, what your plan is for them 3 years from now in the company, they're much more likely to stay, be engaged, and really work their tails off to achieve those goals.
Kimberly, we have an online question. Mary?
That's a great question. So the question is, I spoke a lot about purpose-driven. What exactly does purpose-driven mean? We think we're purpose-driven, but how would I know? I hope you'll follow up with me by email, and let's have a conversation about this, because this is where business is going. So purpose-driven companies focus not just on traditional business metrics, what we produce, the services that we provide, how much money we're making. Purpose-driven companies focus on the good that they're doing in the world. And we're not talking traditional philanthropy. So I'm not just writing big checks and sending droves of employees out to volunteer one day a year. We're actually tracking the impact we're having on society. So there are some really great examples out there of companies that are purpose-driven. I think Northwestern Mutual could be a good example. When you take a look at right now their connection to the Milwaukee Tech Hub, technology is very important to Northwestern Mutual, but through apprenticeship programs, they're building pipelines of individuals to bring them into, to introduce them to careers in technology, which will then career track them into workplaces like Northwestern Mutual. And they're tracking those metrics. So we may be familiar with environmental, social, and governance requirements. Today, US-based businesses are not necessarily required to report out on non-financial ESGs, but that's coming. So we need to take a look at environmental, social, and governance standards and look at how we're reporting out, again, not just on traditional business metrics, but ESGs and the good that we're doing in the world.
I think we have another online question if we can, and I just want to comment on the purpose-driven. I think it's really gathered a lot of momentum over the last several years.
Yeah. So why are Wisconsin women thinking about leaving at greater rates than the national average? I think it speaks to another thing, quite a number of things, and we didn't quantify these specifically, so we didn't ask that question why. But you have a lot of women who are working in lower wage jobs, so they don't have the flexibility that maybe they need within the workplace. You have a lot of women who are working in retail and working in hospitality. And I think that they have, based on the survey numbers, based on the results that we got, there are concerns about pay equity, especially in the retail and hospitality industry, and women who are working in the manufacturing industry. So I think where women feel that they don't have the flexibility from their employer and they're concerned about pay equity is driving more women to consider leaving their jobs.
I love seeing all these questions. We only have time for one more, so we're going to go here.
In your study, did you by any chance encourage women-owned businesses and men-run businesses that is there any how women run their businesses?
That sounds like a great follow-up study. So he asked if we did any comparison between male-owned businesses and how men run their businesses and women-owned businesses, how women do. We did not look into that question.
Kimberly, this has been really delightful. I know this is just the beginning. I do have one burning question I have to ask, which is, what is it that you hope to gain or hope will be a result of all of this endeavor?
Change. I really hope. A number of the issues that we identified in the survey are not new issues, and that was concerning to me. Women feeling undervalued, lack of flexibility, pay equity, stress levels. These are issues that we've seen for generations. What's happening today that's different is that women are actually acting on that. Women are actually quitting their jobs because of the disparities that they're experiencing. So my hope is that CEOs and company leaders download this report. I want you to take a look at the data and the recommendations with your leadership teams as well. And then, make a plan to retain working women in 2022. Start with research. Don't start just with ideas that come off the top of your head. I think all too often, people who are in leadership positions think, I got to come up with ideas to solve this problem. I think that's part of what's led us to the problem in the first place, is that we've come up with ideas that we've implemented, maybe spend a lot of money on, but have not necessarily validated before we've started. So download that report and do your research.
Well, thank you so much for lending your voice and your advocacy for this issue.
Thank you.
Kimberly and Karen, thank you so much for a great presentation. Just another example of the talent and the expertise we have in our club. So thank you very much. And fortunately, if we have follow-up questions as Rotarians, we know where to find you guys. Join the webinar. In honor of Rotarians like you, anybody coming and speaking to our club, we will make a donation fittingly to the YWCA of Southeastern Wisconsin, whose mission is eliminating racism, empowering women, and promoting peace, justice, freedom, and dignity for all. So thank you very much. Last reminders, sign up for the Done in a Day opportunity out in the hall or online. The next Coffee Connector will meet virtually on Thursday, February 10th over Zoom. So check in your emails for the link so you can join. No need to RSVP, and one of the few meetings you can have and show up in your slippers these days. And then lastly, join us next Tuesday for breakfast. First Tuesday of the month breakfast, when Tim Gochman of New Land Enterprises will address why and how his crew are building the Ascent, which for those of you who aren't familiar, it's going up here in the city, and it's the world's tallest mass timber building. So with that, let's go out and do some good in the world. This meeting is adjourned.